I came to Doi Fa Ham Pak not for enlightenment, not for ghosts, but for a sound, a vanishing duet carried on mountain mist, white-handed gibbons, hylobates lar. Their morning songs once echoed through every valley in northern Thailand. Now they're ghosts in the canopy, their numbers dwindling as concrete climbs the hillsides. I carried a parabolic microphone, a weathered field journal, and the quiet desperation of a man who prefers the company of disappearing things to the noise of people who stay. My sister in Chiang Mai had begged me not to go alone. The old ones say that mountain breathes, she'd warned, her fingers tracing the steam rising from her tea. It takes what it needs. I'd laughed gently, kissed her forehead, promised I'd be back before the monsoons. I didn't tell her I'd come here to outrun the silence in my apartment, the one that had grown since Clara left, since my father's funeral, since I realized some absences never fill back in. Some silences become permanent residents in your bones. But the mountain doesn't care what you came for. It only cares if you're listening. And after 6 weeks alone at 3,000 meters, where mist clings to Himalayan pines like wet silk, and the air grows thin enough to make your thoughts feel sharp and expose the boundary between observer and observed, begins to blur like watercolor in rain. My campsite rests on a granite shelf where the world falls away in every direction. Below, valleys coil like sleeping serpents under cloud cover. At dawn, temple bells echo from villages so distant they exist only as sound faint, metallic chimes swallowed by fog within seconds. By noon, the world vanishes completely in white. Not the soft gray of city fog, but a consuming whiteness that erases horizon, depth, even time. You learn to navigate by moss patterns on rocks, by the angle of pine needles. Silence here isn't empty. It's a presence, a weight. It watches with the patience of stone. I've learned the mountain's rhythms the way one learns a lover's breath. Gibbons call at sunrise sharp, echoing duets that spiral through mist-like questions without answers. The male's hoots, the female's grate, calls a conversation older than kingdoms. I record them religiously, though my equipment captures only a fraction of their resonance. The real song lives in the spaces between notes. Cicadas scream midday, a metallic shriek that vibrates in your teeth, the mountain's fever dream. At dusk, everything stops. Not gradually, abruptly, as if a hand has been placed over the world's mouth. Even the wind holds its breath. The pines cease their whispering. The insects fall silent mid-chord. In that vacuum of sound, other things become audible, things that move between heartbeats. That's when I first heard it. 3 weeks in, the light fading fast. I was packing my microphone when a whisper coiled through the clearing, not from any direction, but from the air itself. Soft. In Thai, my ow, don't take. I froze. My Thai is limited to greetings and numbers. I'd never learned don't take. The phrase hung in the cooling air, not threatening, but instructive. Like a parent correcting a child reaching for fire. I turned slowly, heart hammering against my ribs. Nothing. Just dripping ferns and the smell of wet stone and decaying pine needles, a scent like old libraries and forgotten temples. Then a flicker between the trees. A man in faded farmer's clothes, wide-brimmed straw hat, barefoot. His face was calm, kind, wrinkled like river clay dried in sun. But his feet didn't touch the ground, hovered an inch above the moss, casting no shadow in the dying light. Krahang. the spirit who rides the pestle. I'd read about him in a dog-eared folklore text in Chiang Mai's university library, a minor deity of rice fields, said to glide above crops on a wooden mortar, watching over harvests. He doesn't harm the respectful, only observes, judges, decides who belongs. I did what I'd seen villagers do at spirit shrines along the road. Bowed slightly from the waist, palms pressed together, not a full times why, but an acknowledgement. A surrender of my foreign arrogance. He didn't nod, didn't smile. Simply faded, not like mist burning off, but like a memory dissolving upon waking. One moment present, the next, the space he occupied remembered only cold air. That night, I found my audio recorder outside my tent. I'd left it inside, charging on my sleeping mat, its red light blinking steadily. Now it sat centered on a flat rock 3 meters from my door flap, screen glowing with a single file time-stamped 22/3. Hands trembling not from cold but from the quiet violation of having my private space rearranged without sound or struggle, I played it. My own voice, calm, steady, devoid of the anxiety that had gripped me all evening, said, "Day 41, the mountain knows my name." I never recorded that. And I don't say knows like that too reverent, too quiet. I say it with the clinical detachment of a scientist. This was the tone of a devotee, a convert. Next morning, my stainless steel water bottle sat on a flat rock beside my tent. Not where I'd left it hanging from a branch. Beside it, a small offering. 3 jasmine flowers arranged in a triangle and a strip of red cloth knotted carefully around a smooth river stone. The cloth was faded, but clean, the color of dried blood. I hadn't left it there, hadn't even owned red cloth, but I knew what it meant. In Thai belief, red honors times Chow Fo Thao times the Lord of the Mountain. You tie it to trees, leave it at trailheads to ask permission to enter sacred space. To say, I acknowledge your sovereignty. I tread lightly. Someone or something was making offerings times for times me, pleading my case to the mountain's guardian. I should have packed then. Called for extraction on the satellite phone I kept sealed in its case. But part of me felt seen, understood in a way no human had managed since Clara walked out. The mountain wasn't threatening me, it was courting me, teaching me its etiquette, correcting my spiritual clumsiness with gentle hands. 2 nights ago, I woke to singing. Not the Gibbon duets I'd come for. A woman's voice clear, mournful, weaving through the banana grove that clung improbably to a south-facing slope below camp. The melody had no words I recognized, but its cadence spoke of longing, of roots torn from earth, of love that outlives death. It drifted upward on the night air, each note hanging like dew before dissolving. Nang Tani, the spirit of wild banana trees, beautiful, deadly. Folklore says she appears as a young woman in green times Fa Sin, her waist impossibly slender, her feet turned backward. She sings to lonely men, lures them deep into groves where time bends and hours become years. Some say she's the ghost of a woman who died in childbirth beneath a banana tree. Others say she's older than that, older than Buddhism, older than the First Kingdom, a land spirit who never consented to human dominion. I didn't go, didn't even sit up, just lay in my sleeping bag, listening until the song faded at moonset, each note taking a piece of my resistance with it. At dawn, shivering in the mountain cold, I unzipped my tent to find a single ripe banana on my sleeping mat. peeled, the flesh gleaming white and perfect, fresh. Impossible. Banana trees don't grow this high, too cold, too exposed. The nearest grove was 2 days' hike down in a sheltered valley. And no animal would peel a banana with such care, place it so gently on fabric. I didn't eat it. Not out of fear, but reverence. Some gifts aren't meant for consumption. They're meant as proof. I see you, I provide. Will you stay? That afternoon, while boiling water for coffee, I checked my journal. Flipped to yesterday's entry. Day 40. No gibbon sightings. Missed all day. Felt watched. Below it in my handwriting, same blue ink, same pressure on the downstrokes, a new line. They're teaching me to be quiet. Soon I won't need words. I didn't write that. But the slant of the T, the way the yi curled, it was mine. Uncannily, impossibly mine. As if my hand had moved while my mind slept, or as if something had learned to wear my gestures like a second skin. Last night, I dreamed of walking down the mountain. Not the treacherous switchbacks I'd climbed 6 weeks ago, but a gentle slope carpeted in moss, reaching Chiang Mai's night market. Finding my sister at our usual stall, steam rising from bowls of Time's cow soy. Hugging her, really hugging her, not the stiff shoulder-patting embraces of adults who've grown apart. Her hair smelled of jasmine shampoo. She whispered, "You stayed too long," but she was smiling. When I woke, disoriented by the dream's vividness, I reached for my boots beside my sleeping mat. They were gone. Not stolen, not dragged away by animals, placed neatly at the edge of the clearing laces tied in precise double knots, the way my father taught me as a boy, the way I never tie them anymore. Beside them, a pair of bare footprints pressed into the damp earth. Size 10, my size. Toes splayed slightly, as if the walker carried no weight, leading away from camp into the mist-shrouded pines. I didn't follow. Didn't even stand to look longer. Because in that moment, I finally understood the mountain isn't haunted by spirits. It times the spirit. A single, ancient consciousness woven through root and rock and mist. And it chooses who stays, who leaves, and who becomes part of its silence, not as prey, but as participant. This morning, I left my recorder running on the log beside my extinguished fire, sat wrapped in my sleeping bag, watching mist coil through pines like slow smoke. At 3:17 a.m., the voice activation triggered my voice softer, calmer than I've ever heard it whispered. Tell them I'm fine. Tell them I found what I came for. Pause. The sound of my own breath, slower than human norm. And tell my sister, I'm sorry I never learned her song. I picked up the recorder, stared at the glowing screen, then deleted the file. Not out of fear, out of privacy. Some transformations aren't meant to be archived. I walked to the oldest pine on the ridge, the one wrapped in frayed red cloth by generations of hikers, its bark scarred with centuries of prayers. I took the spare bandana from my pack red, faded from sun and sweat, and tied it carefully to a low branch. Not as a tourist gesture, as a vow. Said the only Thai phrase I know with true feeling. Kop kun krap, thank you. Now I sit here, writing this by headlamp, the beam catching mist droplets like suspended stars. My pack is gone. My satellite phone too. Not taken violently, simply absent. as if they'd never existed. But my cup remains, ceramic, chipped at the rim from a fallen Nepal years ago. Steam rises in delicate curls in the cold air. Black coffee, no sugar, just how I make it. I didn't make it, but I'll drink it. Because the one who left it, whether Krahang, Nang Tani, or the mountain's own breath-given form, knows me better than I know myself. Knows my habits, my griefs, the exact temperature I prefer my coffee, knows that what I truly came for wasn't Gibbons at all, but a silence deep enough to drown the noise inside me. If you find this journal, perhaps tucked in a waterproof bag beneath the red cloth pine, don't come looking. Don't send search parties. Don't call my sister with false hope. Just leave an offering at the base of that tree. Jasmine if you have it, red cloth if you don't. Sit quietly for 10 minutes. Listen. And if you hear a man humming a Gibbons call from the mist, not a recording, but a voice weaving through the pines, perfectly mimicking the great call's rising arc, don't answer. Don't call his name. He's not lost. He's home. And the mountain is singing through him now.